Let's call the HRA, Housing and Redevelopment Authority meeting to order for June 23rd. And we will start out, we don't need to do a roll call. We see that everybody's here. We'll make note of that. And we'll go to chair's remarks first. And for chair's remarks today, I'm going to turn to Karen to introduce a new employee in her department.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, trustees. We've been short-staffed for several months down in community development, and we have found an exceptional candidate. Stephanie has now been with us for a week and a half, and I'm very pleased to introduce you to Stephanie Wudo. Why don't you stand up, Stephanie? Stephanie comes to us from Minneapolis Public Housing, so she brings a great wealth of background information on how HUD programs work, and we're very excited to bring her into our fold and have her help with a lot of the loan programs that we operate. Maybe Stephanie, you can just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, chairs and trustees. My name is Stephanie Wudo, and I'm very excited to be here working in this department here, and I'll be working as a homeowner rehabilitation specialist, and I used to work at Minneapolis Public Housing as a assistant property manager, so very interested in housing, and yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. We're excited to have you. We always need more talent on the team, and it's great to bring in some young talent that happens to have a little bit of background in what we're doing. So
it's a rare day that we bring someone on board that actually has experience in our field. So it's, we're taking this as a very positive sign.
Very good. Welcome. Next, we will move on to consider approving the minutes from the HRA board meeting of May 26th of this year. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Look. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee West. Any corrections or additions or deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The minutes are adopted. Next, we will turn to, I believe, the attorney to have a public hearing.
That's correct. Mr. Chair, thank you. At this time, I would then convene the public hearing, the purpose of which is to offer the public an opportunity to comment on proposed substantial amendments to the Anoka County portions of the Dakota County Consortium 2019 Program Year Action Plan as detailed below. I would ask the clerk to make note of the public notice that when it was published in the Anoka County Union on Friday, June 12th, 2020, and make that a part of the record. Also, for purposes of the public that is viewing this hearing, because the public has not been allowed to attend this hearing, I would ask that anyone that wishes to comment in the hearing send an email to the following email address: Tina, T-I-N-A Pedersen, P-E-D-E-R-S-E-N @co.anoka.mn.us. And at this time, I would turn it over to Community Director, Ms. Karen Skepper, to give a report on this to the Board of Trustees.
Thank you. Chair, trustees, members of the public, our department manages the Community Development Block Grant Program. Periodically, when there are economic downturns, we see additional funds come to us. In this case, it is funding related directly to COVID-19. One of the first things that HUD did was grant us some flexibility in how we conduct a public hearing. We were able to shorten our notice time to 5 days, and we are able to conduct a hearing virtually using an email as the way for the public to connect with us. So this is all within the regulations and the waivers that we received from HUD. We recently received notice that we would receive $932,927 that could be used for prevention, response, and recovery from COVID-19. To first find out what really the community felt the needs were, we posted a survey online. We received 136 unique responses, and we were able to clearly identify the 4 top areas that the public felt we needed to work in. And when I say public, it was citizens, local businesses, local units of government, and nonprofit agencies that serve persons in the county. There were 4, as I said, clear areas that we believe we need to use the COVID funds for. First of all, there is economic assistance to small businesses. We would like to propose a grant program to smaller businesses, those who were not able to receive funding through any of the federal programs that rolled out. We also believe that come July 15th, when the moratorium is lifted on evictions, that we will have a lot of people struggling to keep their rental units. HUD has given us yet another waiver where we can pay up to 3 months of rent that is past due, along with utilities. We think that that would be another extremely important area to help serve our public. Those two were the top 2 scoring items on the community development survey we conducted. Numbers 3 and 4 were tied. They were food service and food support and mental health services. I believe that that gives us a very round ability to work in partnership with our local agencies and our county departments. And our recommendation is to create these 4 categories and work with local partners, some within the county, some our nonprofit agencies, to get these programs up and running and help the public as quickly as possible. I'm happy to answer any questions any of you may have.
Does the board have any questions for Ms. Gebhardt? Okay. Hearing no questions, as part of the public notice for this public hearing, public was invited to submit comments to your department. And Ms. Gebhardt, have you received any public comments
We did
on the
not.
subject of this hearing?
We did not receive any written comments or phone calls.
Okay. Ms. Peterson, have you received any comments from any member of the public during this meeting?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So at this point, I would then close the public comment portion of it, and then would, unless the board has any other objections, I would then close the public hearing and turn the matter back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney Palumbo. We are just taking comment on item 5 today. We're not making any other transaction here. We're not going to move or adopt a resolution here today, correct?
Mr. Chair, our next item on the agenda, after the public hearing is closed, is to approve an amendment to our plans,
On
which
item
would allow
6.
us to move forward in these 4 areas.
Okay, so that concludes item 5, and we'll move on to item 6, which the ACR, the Anoka County Housing and Redevelopment Authority Management Committee moved to recommend the HRA Board of Trustees approve an amendment to the Community Development Block Grant and Home Action Plan to add in the CDBG COVID funding to include public service activities and administration for COVID-19 prevention, response, and recovery. And that came out of that committee with a recommendation to approve that. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Gamache. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Meisner. Is there further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just
Trustee Gamache.
wanted to ask Karen a little bit. Do you envision, when we move forward with this, a similar system that we have already set up as to how we find these individuals, or do we do the surveys again and trying to dig in to see what's out there, and especially when we get to rental, how do we? I'm imagining if we have that rental program where we're paying some people's rents, we're just going to have to advertise in some fashion. But I was just kind of curious if you've got any ideas as to how we find the individuals or the businesses or whatever it might be that need help.
Mr. Chair, Trustee, I think that there'll be enough media coverage of this. However, the rental assistance portion, we will work directly with our economics assistance folks in Human Services. There's just a pilot program starting now where, using our 2020 program funds, we will be assisting with a court's initiative to prevent foreclosures if at all possible. So I expect we will be partnering with those same folks and identify them as they're coming in to fight an eviction. We will also reach out to rental assistance organizations such as Homeline and let them know that we are operating this type of a program. I can't pay future rent, I can't pay 6 months of rent, but we could do up to 3 months of rent. And we'll be very clear about that. On the economic development side for businesses, we will be talking to the media. We'll put out a press release, and we are working with a local company to actually administer the program on our behalf. So I believe we'll be able to find enough businesses to make use of all of our funds.
Thank you.
Trustee Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for the economic development portion too, does this at all overlap with our work with JACEL, or these are, you know what I mean, like two completely separate entities? And I'm going to guess they're two completely separate.
Mr. Chair, Trustee Meisner, two separate programs. However, we want to align them as closely as possible. So we could use one application form. If they meet the federal requirements, they use the CDBG money. If they don't meet those requirements, they fall into the other pot of money. One application will serve a lot of people much more efficiently.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Certainly.
Further questions? If not, there's a motion and a second before us. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That'll pass unanimously. Next, we are being asked to approve the 2021 senior housing budget and rent increase of 1.5% for the following Anoka County Housing and Redevelopment Authority senior housing apartment buildings: the Willows of Ham Lake, Savannah Oaks, Chauncey Barrett Gardens, and the Oaks of Lake George. Karen.
Mr. Chair, trustees, we come before you every year to take these two actions. I know it's always tough to approve rent increases. However, we are coming in at a dollar amount of 1.5% across the board. That will be significantly lower than what you'll see out in the general market area. We work very hard to keep the rates as low as we possibly can, and yet still meet our ongoing obligation of servicing the building and building the reserve funds so that when we need to have a roof replaced or when we have building issues, we've got the funds to take care of that. We've worked closely with 4 cities over the course of our history. These cities have all asked us to undertake these activities on their behalf, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Karen? Trustee Meisner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess mostly just commentary, because for this, when we discussed this, I mean, it was really clear that this 1.5% would not be consistent for, you know, years to come.
Correct.
And so I just want to reiterate that. And I want to say, is it 3%, which is kind of the market standard?
Mr. Chair, trustee, 3% is a pretty common market standard. However, in the past few years, we've seen giant rent increases, sometimes topping 10 or 12% in the open market. Last year, our increase was 3%. We have had years where we've been able to nudge it down a little bit into a 1%. I think we even had one year where we didn't have a rent increase. But we believe that this is the amount we need to efficiently run our buildings.
And as a reminder, all these buildings are running at 100% capacity or very close. And many of them have waiting lists, so they're not priced out of the market by any stretch. And as a matter of fact, they're on the whisker of being below market rents. And it's important not for us to make money. It's important not even for us to completely break even all the time, but it's really important that we have a long-term plan into the future, so we don't run deeply in the red in years to come at other taxpayers' expense. So it's a balancing act, and I think our team has done a really good job, I think, of balancing that and coming in with reasonable rent increases and still maintaining the buildings to a capacity that will serve us for years to come. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Gamache. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, second by Commissioner Meisner. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Gamache, or Trustee Gamache, excuse me.
Thank you. Commissioner's fine. For Karen, all of these different cities at one point in time decided that this was necessary in their areas. And I'm curious, from other cities that are along with us on the HRA, have you heard of any others that have had any interest recently?
Mr. Chair, trustee, yes, I am working with Linwood Township right now.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That item passes. Is there anything else to come before the HRA today? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
You always like to be the guy that makes the